All right, guys, welcome back. Here is video number 2. We're talking about everything you can do when you're buying your house to make the transaction go as smoothly as possible. Now, again, I want to repeat this. There's a lot of problems that crop up in a real estate transaction, and a lot of them you can't do anything about. That's why you have an attorney. That's why you have an agent. That's why you have a loan officer, inspector, appraiser. You have a whole team behind you to sort all these problems out. And what we're focusing on are problems or situations or things you can do. You can do, no one else, you can do to make your transaction go as smoothly as possible. Okay, the last video, we talked about all the little things that you can do from when you're thinking about buying a house to when you are locked in and under contract. If you haven't seen that video and you want to know more about that, look for the link, click on it, and you can watch the video. But if you've seen the video or you're just not interested and you're interested in this video, then stick around. We are talking about everything you can do when you buy a house, from when you're under contract to when you close on the house and the house is yours. All right, let's get started. Okay, the first thing, once you're under contract, once both the attorneys, the buyer and the seller, agree to everything, you're locked into contract. Now it's time for the buyer to do their diligence to get their house. Okay, the first thing is this, and this is a strange one because this is not the buyer's responsibility. Open permits. You cannot close on your house. You cannot close on your home buying purchase with a house that has open permits. Now let's talk a little bit about open permits. An open permit is simply, let's just say you're doing work on a house. You're installing an HVAC. Well, the company has to come, they have to open a permit with the township. They have to install the HVAC, and then the township has to come and approve everything. And then they close the permit. So any work, major work that's done on the house requires a permit, and it requires that permit to be closed, okay? And so if you're buying a house and you find out that there's open permits, they have to be closed before the township allows you, the attorneys, everyone, they all require these permits to be closed before you purchase your house. This is not your responsibility as the buyer, okay? And it's strange I'm bringing this up, but usually the case is this. Most owners of home, most sellers, they think all their permits are closed. They don't know. A lot of times they've had work done and the renovator or the contractor they hired did not close the permit out or forgot to. A lot of times sellers find out when it's too late that there's an open permit, sometimes a week before closing. And I've seen this happen a lot. The town comes in to do their final sort of certification, CO or whatever, and they go, oh, you've got an open permit. And again, if you're a week before closing out a permit could be easy. It could take 3 days. It could take a month, maybe 2 months if it's disastrous. What could happen is simply this. If you find out a week before you close there's an open permit, an inspector goes there and says, this was all done wrong. You have to completely fix this. You have to bring people in to fix it, and the town has to come back. It can be a nightmare. Like I said, this is not your responsibility as the buyer, but this still has the potential of delaying your closing by a considerable amount of time. And there's nothing anyone can do about it. And what if your rate lock expires? What if you're out of your rental and you're homeless? I mean, this could have like pretty serious consequences to you, and it's not even your responsibility. So how do you deal with this? It's very simple. You have the right to request the township to give you any open and closed permits on that house, especially the house that you're buying. Your agent can't really do this, your attorney can't do this, and it's pretty simple. You just find the form online, or you call the township, or you have your agent help you to find the form you need to. You submit it to the town, and usually in a day or 3 days, they send you all open and closed permits. And if you find out once you go under contract, which, usually you have 30 days or 40 days before you close, if you find out then that there is an open permit, you're giving the seller so much time to close that out. Okay, all right, guys, let's move on to the next thing. So many buyers wait until the last minute to get their insurance, their home insurance. 5 days, a week before you're closing. Oh, let's call up the insurance. Let's get the insurance in place because, everyone's asking for it. Lately, there's been a lot of issues with insurance, insuring houses. Now, in Jersey, we're not running into the same problems that they are in Florida, where they're just no longer insuring houses, from what I'm told. But there is a situation that's cropping up. A lot of insurances now are doing pictures or photography of the roof. If they do not like the roof, they're going to ask for you to replace that roof in order to get insured, or you're going to have to pay a lot more insurance. There's no harm in contacting an insurance agent now when you've got 30 or 40 days before you close to get a quote, to have them do their diligence. 95% of the time, they're going to give you great home insurance and it's going to be okay. But what if they go, we're not insuring you until you replace that roof? And then you get the quote with this 2 other insurance companies and they're saying the same thing. Wouldn't you want that information before you do your inspection? Before you have the right to ask for changes to be done? If you get your insurance done after you've closed out your inspection contingency, you can't ask for anything. You're in breach of contract, okay? So get this insurance quote first. See what they have to say. See what they uncover. Because if you do it early, if there's something that comes up, you can do something about it. If you do this 5 days before you're closed, there's nothing you can do about it. Okay, so again, you can avoid problems, possible problems, if you get your insurance quote sooner rather than later. All right, moving on. The next thing that's coming is the inspection and the appraisal. The problems that come from that, you have no power over. That's why you have your attorneys, your agents, your inspectors, and people to help you through these. We all know about the inspections. We all know about the appraisals. There's been 100 videos on YouTube. There's been 100 articles and blogs about these things. We know these problems that come up with these, but I would be remiss in not at least mentioning them. I think when you get to inspection, you have to manage your expectation, okay? Especially if you're a first-time home buyer. Know this, that report's coming back and there's going to be a lot of stuff on it. You know, I rarely see an inspection report less than 50 pages, okay? And it doesn't matter if it's this house you're buying or the next house you're buying or whatever, just expect a pretty large report. Another thing that you need to manage is the sellers are not going to fix everything. So focus on the major points of the inspection. Major structural problems, environmental like radon, health and safety, dangerous elements of the house that need to be fixed that are very concerning. Wood destroying insects, that can be a real problem. Focus on that stuff. And a lot of times you'll be, okay, there's 2 or 3 points that are really scary. I want to figure out, I want to check them, or I want to ask for a credit, or I want to ask for them to fix it. But these 10 other things, or these 12 other things that are like a little crack in the window that I already saw when I made my offer, a little peeling paint, a wobbly railing, that it's not going to break the bank to fix. Again, you can ask for it, but focus on the big stuff. You know, manage expectation with that, okay? But again, if an inspection comes back catastrophic, if you've got an underground oil tank that contaminated the whole yard, you want out. You know what I mean? If there's a structural crack and the house is sinking into the backyard and it's going to be $150,000 to fix it, you don't want to sign up for that. You know, that's stuff you want to make sure you focus on. I'll also say this real quick about inspection. Don't be cheap with the inspector, okay? Don't go with another inspector just because they're $100 less than one you know and trust, and this one you don't know and trust. Why would you be cheap on someone who is making sure your house is safe for you? Why would you be cheap on somebody who is making sure this is a good purchase for you? You know, just make sure you do your diligence on the inspector and make sure they're excellent at their job. All right, the appraisal. Again, not much to do. We all know what the appraiser is. Your lender is giving you a qualification for $700,000. You offer $700,000 for this house. The bank is sending an appraiser to come to see if this house is worth $700,000. They may come there and appraise the house and it's $690,000. And we all know that that means the bank's only giving you $690,000. You have to come up with $10,000. The seller has to lower it $10,000, or you meet in the middle, come up with $5, they lower it $5. You know, this is something that, again, not much you can do about, but I just want to mention it. I will say this, a lot of loan officers, you know, and banks and stuff you go with, they have plans that can waive the appraisal, or they can do a pre-appraisal, or they can, you know, like, talk to your loan officer when you get your pre-qualification and really talk to them about their opinion and what they can do for you in this appraisal situation. Because if you make an offer and you're able to waive the appraisal, that means your offer is one of the strongest ones out there. But if you can't, you know, this is just to protect you. This is to protect the bank. Moving on. All right. this is another thing that is not your responsibility as the buyer. It is the seller's responsibility. The township has to issue CO, certificate of occupancy, or a smoke certification, or a COO, or a certificate of continued occupancy. Every township has sort of a different title for their certification. But ultimately what they have to do is they got to come in there, they got to check what they need to check based on the township regulations. Sometimes the township only comes and checks smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, and fire extinguishers. Sometimes the town comes in and checks those, as well as they do their little inspection with little fixes and stuff like that. Whatever that is, the township needs to come, sign off on it, give this certificate to you so you can close. You can't close without this certificate, whatever it's titled. It's not your problem, but here's the thing. If the seller's too late in trying to get this organized, if the agent forgets about it or whatever, who suffers? You suffer. This can delay your closing. If you get to sort of 3 days before closing and they realize, oh my God, I didn't get the smoke certification. Sometimes it takes a week or 2 weeks to organize with the town inspector to be there to do this. So what you can do, and sometimes I'd like to do this when you go under contract, but usually when you're around inspection time, appraisal time, it's good. Here's what you can do. Just talk to your agent and say, can you reach out to the listing agent? Can you inquire about if they have a certificate of occupancy, ready to go or scheduled? And sometimes you put in that request, you talk to them, and the listing agent's like, oh yeah, I got to get that ready. I got to get that done. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Ask, because again, you're avoiding a problem that can crop up, that can delay your closing and cause a nightmare of problems for you. Again, you could be homeless. Your rate lock could expire if you delay your closing. The sellers, they still have their house. They're living nice and easy in their house waiting to close, So another little thing that you can look at that's not your responsibility, but I think you need to make it your responsibility to make sure it happens. All right, the next thing that happens, we have the clear to close. Now, what this is usually a week or 2 weeks before you close. And this is terrifying when you understand what this is. This is where the underwriter looks at everything that you have for your mortgage that your loan officer has gotten ready. Your loan officer has no power to qualify you for the mortgage. It's the underwriter that says you get this mortgage, okay? And so what happens now is all the stuff goes to the underwriter, and if the loan officer has done their job correctly, the underwriter may ask for another credit check. They may ask for something to be explained or something to be signed if there's a change of name or something going on. And it's a very easy process to get to clear to close. Here's the thing. Not all loan officers, I'm sorry to say this, are good at their job. So if you shopped around for a rate, if you just went, fishing online for some random agent through all these online, mortgage sites and stuff like that, then you have no idea who this loan officer is, and they did not do their diligence. This happens more often than you think of. They just don't talk about it a lot, but let me tell you, you get to this point 2 weeks before you close, the underwriter gets this stuff, and they say, this, and this, you do not qualify for this mortgage. You don't qualify at all. The deal goes absolutely kaput, okay? And there's nothing you can do. And when you're 2 weeks before close, or worse yet, a week before close, you might have, gotten out of your rental. You've already paid, $2,000, $2,500 for all the inspections and appraisals and everything. You've uprooted your life, ready to move, and then all of a sudden it's not happening. It is disastrous. This is probably one of the worst things can happen in the real estate transaction. And how you can avoid this is simply this. You make sure that loan officer, and this is above rate, this is above whatever perks and little things that they can do for you, you make sure that loan officer is great. Know this, when an attorney or a real estate agent is giving you suggestions for loan officers, they don't get any kickbacks. That's illegal. They don't get money or anything like that. They know this person closes. They know this person. I know my loan officers, they go to that underwriter first during the pre-qual time to get you qualified. They get everything signed off with first. So I know when we get to this clear to close, there's not going to be any issues. None issues at all. So rewind back to when you're thinking about looking for a house. And this right here is the reason why you have to make sure that loan officer is the best at what they do. Okay, the next thing that's going to happen is this title. There's not much you can do here. I just like to talk about this. Title, it takes everything. Title have to do so much work in such a little space of time. They have such a hard job. They're getting all the lending. They're checking out the house to make sure the house is free and clear of title. And just know that there's going to be a lot of little things that crop up of this that you have to do, sign documents. They basically find all the little flaws and stuff like that and fix everything. But they're compiling everything for the closing table for you. It's Title that takes the lead now to make sure everything's clear to close. And so not much you can do here. Any problems that crop up with title, you're going to need your attorney and everyone to sort out. Closing. This is another expectation thing. This is another thing that people don't, I think, understand as much as they should. The closing date that you have on your contract that you agreed to is anticipatory. Okay. So many times closing dates move 2 days here or 4 days there or whatever, and everyone goes crazy. They get so mad. And it clearly says in the contract, this closing dates are anticipatory. I always say, like, trying to figure out when to close on a real estate deal 30 days, 40 days before you've done all your diligence, all inspections, all appraisals, all title and situations and township certifications, all that is like taking a marble and throwing it into a cup that's on the other side of your yard. It's not easy to line everything up and hit one day. You just have to just be as flexible as you can within a week period. They rarely go more than 2 days past that. But what you can do is this: if the sellers are taking way too long because of township things or whatever, and it's a situation, or if the buyers are taking too long, if it's a lending thing, you can serve something called a time of essence. That means you have to close by this time, or I can back out of the deal, or we can ask for stuff. And that's a 10-day period. Okay. So really only 10 days after the closing date, you can do something about it, but you have to serve this. And no one ever really does it because everyone, the sellers want to sell, the buyers want to buy. But just know you're not sitting there in limbo forever, but it's anticipatory. Again, your closing is scheduled. You have your day. And my biggest note is this: do your final walkthrough as close to the closing as you can. A day before is fine. 2 days before, I'm a bit scared of. I always like to suggest 2 hours before your closing in that morning. Get in that house, do your final walkthrough. Because a lot of times you have not seen the house since the inspection. That could be 3 weeks. That could be a month. There could have been a tree that's fallen down and crushed a shed. But usually what happens is when people are moving out, they can break out a window, or they can, wreck a banister, or in the contract, they say they're leaving the washer and dryer and they end up taking the washer and dryer, even though in the contract it says they're leaving it. You want to do that final walkthrough, because if you sign on the house and close on the house and you go back and you see there's all these things that happen, or you can't ask for anything. You signed everything. You've signed off. It's yours. The house is yours. So you do not skip or delay that final walkthrough, because if you go there and they've taken the washer and dryer, you can say, well, all right, you got to pay me this money, or you got to get the washer and dryer back. You can ask for stuff. Don't be too critical. There's obviously going to be nails in the wall from where they're moving the pictures. There's going to be little dings where they move the couch and stuff like that. This is more big stuff that happened, but you want to do that final walkthrough, and you want to do it as close to closing time as possible. So there's a less gap of time for something to happen to the house from when you sign off and close on the house. All right, that's it. These are all these little problems that I think buyers can take into account and do to make their transaction go as smoothly as possible and avoid problems, not the normal problems that crop up, but these little problems that buyers can sort of anticipate. And that's it. That's the second video is done. Now, listen, there's other problems that come up. Comment below. Let me know about things that have happened in your real estate transaction. Like, comment, subscribe, and look out for my next video. All right, guys, have a good one.